Thank you, everybody, for coming to the October 8th, 2018 Preble Town Board meeting. Are there any corrections, additions, or deletions to our regular meeting of September 10th or the public hearing of September 10th?
Move the minutes be accepted.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Jane?
No report received from the dog control. No report received from justice.
Thanks, Jane. Hire report, Jeff?
Yeah, y'all got a copy of it. A big couple things happened, like just recently. Today, I got a copy of the proposed county plowing contract. I read through it. John read through all of it, but we requested that the contract from 5 years ago, if they just update the pricing on it, then it'd be something we could sign. And then they took 5 years ago contract and added a bunch of stuff from the new 23-page contract. It's legalese, and I've got copies of Cuda County's contracts. And Onondaga County is like a 3-page contract. It's frustrating because Cuda County, they list you as, a town and the county, back and forth. This contract, you feel like you're a third-rate citizen because you're contractor this, his or it. I mean, it's all very boilerplate, pulled off the internet to me. It's not supposed to be a shared service agreement. It's what it really is in my eyes. Two municipalities trying to help each other out and have a common agreement. And it's 100% slanted in Cortland County's favor. And it's frustrating. We have no way to get out of it. They have 11 ways to get out of it.
So why don't we not sign it?
So that's up to the board and you, but as far as I'm concerned, it's just about demeaning the way they wrote that contract to another municipality. The way they, we're mightier than thou, and it's just you're the contractor. We're not ABC snow plowing service with huge trucks. Okay, we're another municipality that work toe to toe with these people. And I don't appreciate it, honestly, getting treated as a second-rate citizen, to be honest.
We don't make any money off this, do we?
It's about a break even. Time you're all said and done. Some years you make money.
Right.
I'm not going to say you don't.
Right.
But then you get a bad, last year we went 36 days in a row. And Saturday, Sunday, the whole bit. And it starts to pull it back in line. The other thing they want in the new contract, just I'll have to hire a secretary to keep all the paperwork straight. They want every time you go out, they want paperwork to show what material you've used, what time you're on each road. What are you going to do? Stop at each intersection and fill out paperwork? Because, okay, it's this time. I got to fill out what time I'm on this road. It's nuts. Reading through it, and you're more than welcome to have copies, or maybe you have, but I'm very frustrated with it.
If it's going to create that much more work for your guys, and if over a long period of time, it's basically a wash money-wise, then we don't have to do this.
I frustrate, even the copy they sent us says Kyler all over it with Kyler's figures in it. Thanks for taking the time to proofread.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, this should have been signed a year ago. Okay. And they drug their feet. Now it's the 11th hour. And if you remember 5.5 years ago, when we first signed the original one, just to get 3 or 4 things added that we really felt was important, it took us 2 months to get added. And now they've taken those things out of this contract. The stuff we negotiated last time for has been removed. Simple sentence that said, well, the county shall use its best efforts to keep the roads in the current condition at this time of the signing. Might not sound like a lot, but it's trying to keep them to take care of the roads that we plow as well as the ones they plow. The other thing was now it's in there. It's solely at the discretion of the county highway superintendent as to how you're going to take care of the roads. It used to say the town will maintain the county roads in the same manner that they take care of their town roads.
Mhm.
So what are they gonna do? Come in and say you need to salt 4 times a day? Or, I mean, you're opening yourself up to
Mhm.
a lot by not having some kind of language to protect you.
Mhm.
The biggest frustration is we have no way out of it. Before
Okay.
it was a year. We had to let them know in writing a year before the end of the contract, so you had a year to get out of it. Now, basically, you're signing a 5-year contract unless we were to default on it.
Well, the county's under pressure to do shared services by Albany. So if they're gonna treat us this way, then we don't have to sign it.
It's frustrating. Don, I'm sorry. I'm not reading leads, but I'm just frustrated over it. It's very frustrating.
Well, I mean, you don't want to hear me repeat what Jeff just said, but I agree with everything he said. I've not gotten a call from anyone
Mhm.
to discuss.
Mhm.
And I realize the highway department has been in a little bit of turmoil or whatever, but I haven't even gotten a call from anyone saying, hey, let's talk about this before they just generate this,
Mhm.
spit this back out for us. And again, one of the main things that really addressed our comfort level the first time around was, the county has the ability to terminate. And, our argument was then, and I think it's the same now as well, if it isn't working, we want to be able to get out of it too. It's a reciprocal thing. And there is a lot of language in here that protects the county, okay? But it protects the county mostly where they're dealing with a private vendor.
Mhm.
And much of that language really, I don't think applies when you're dealing with a municipality. We're not in this to really make a profit. We're not a
Right.
business person selling or providing services.
We're
with the
just doing
county.
shared services because we're all in the same county.
Yeah. So, and you're right. We're running out of time. This is for the season starts November 1.
Mhm.
We don't have any agreement in place.
Okay.
So I
Pretty simple.
couldn't recommend it
Mhm.
at this point.
Mhm. Well, as a board, our council doesn't recommend us signing it, and our highway superintendent doesn't recommend us signing it. So we will not sign it. Yeah. Yeah. And they'll have to come up here and plow their own roads.
Well, and just to dovetail into that, Friday, finally, the state's a month late too, when they're supposed to have a salt contract done by 1st of September. And they just approved the salt contract October 4th. And the price of salt went up $9 a ton.
Hmm.
It is by far the most it's ever gone up in 1 year. So if you start looking at, your cost
Mhm.
of what it's gonna cost to do that,
Mhm.
$9 a ton is significant.
Mhm.
And ours is some of the cheapest salt in the state. Portland and Tompkins, we're at $51.89. And then there's a fuel surcharge if the price of fuel goes up. But just as a reference, you can buy type 3 binder for about $62 today. So we're within $10 a ton of what you buy blacktop or salt. Blacktop, 15, 18 years you get out of it. Salt, 15 or 20 minutes if the weather's bad enough. And some places in the state, as an example, are closer to $90 a ton. If you can imagine paying $90 a ton for salt. Essex County, way up by the Canadian.
And isn't that because we live closer to the salt mines?
Yeah, it's all because that's a transported price. But
Right.
on top of that, they can only, when they get into the thick of the season, they can only make so much a day,
Right.
Produce it. And they're taking care of the roads that their truckers and everybody drives before they do the outlying areas too.
Mhm.
And as an example, there's a couple of years they don't even bid the outlying counties up north.
Hmm.
And they have to go out to a separate bid.
So it went up $9 on 51 as a base.
It's a base. It's
Wow.
It's 51.89. And that was and the catch with that is a lot of us mix sand and salt. And September is a great month to do it. October, you get to rainy time. Okay, now you're mixing your sand and everything in the rain and putting it up damp. So we would have mixed at least a week or two ago had we been able to buy it. You can't even buy it. Call up, they say, I'm sorry, you're under New York State contract, try again next week. And now that it's been approved, we don't know when we're gonna get it because everybody's ordered it, and it might be a week or two before you can get it because the truckers are gonna be backed up.
Jeff, going back to the plowing agreement, do you have a contact that you talked to at the county about this?
Oh, just the new highway superintendent.
Yeah, Charlie Subring.
Yeah.
Well, now, he's probably trying to figure out where everything is at this point.
It's frustrating too, and we all know, and nobody wants to dwell on it because it's turmoil, but they're down at least 4 MEO truck drivers today. Down a mechanic, they're going into winter.
Mhm.
That turns into a 24 operation here Thanksgiving time,
Mhm.
and having 2 mechanics for that fleet of vehicles running 24 hours a day, 'cause it's like when it's go time.
Yep.
Mhm.
That's insane. They should have at least 4 mechanics down there. So,
Mhm.
and my only thing, and I don't know where the board feels, I know, I don't want the roads not getting taken care of up here. I think that's the biggest thing as the public. And, if they wanted to do a one-year extension on that last contract or something to get through this
Mhm.
versus our roads not getting taken care of, I don't know how you feel about that, Don. I don't know. I just,
Yeah.
Jeff, can I ask you a question? I mean, what records do you normally keep that reflect, when you plow, usage
basically
and
it's a daily diary I keep. Went in at this time, plowed, sanded, the route. Everybody has a designated route, and that's probably the biggest difference between small towns and county and state. The county and state, those guys, here's your route. You get in a truck. These are your buttons you push and you drive. Bare road, salt's on the road. Okay. I'd flip out if the guys were salting or sanding a road that was bare and dry, unless we knew a storm was coming. That's one thing. But, there's places that it needs it, and there's places it doesn't. And on the same token, when it needs a lot more than what standard is, put it down, make the road safe.
Mhm.
And
But say if that happens, so what record, do you make any special notation, or is there a page worth of notes made for that
each
day?
one of us have our winter, or not winter, year-round diary we keep
Okay.
week to week. Went out 3 times full route, sanded only, sanded hills only, and then along with that, I put in the temperature and weather conditions for 31 degrees and freezing rain, or kind of give us an idea what it's doing.
Have they asked you for those records at all in the last 3 years? I mean, there just seems to be a lot of, one example, the record keeping. It says the county, and it goes on to say the state of New York and the United States shall have the right at any time during the term of this agreement and for the period limited by the applicable statute of limitations to audit the payment of monies hereunder. Additionally, the contractor shall, that's us, comply with any demands made by the county to provide information with respect to the payment of monies hereunder during the period covered by this paragraph. 2, maintain its books and records in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles or such other method of account which is approved in writing by the county prior to the date of this agreement. 3, maintain the revenues and expenditures in connection with this agreement so they are separately identifiable. 4, fully document each expenditure or claim for payment. Expenditure or claims for payments which are not fully documented may be disallowed. And there's 2 other requirements. And I don't think our situation, that language, I don't think applies at all.
Right.
But yet it's in there. So
Mhm.
what does it mean? I mean, if they want, if they're familiar with how we keep our records and they want to be able to see our records as we keep them now, I personally wouldn't have a problem with that as attorney for the town.
Right.
But I don't know what they mean by that.
Mhm.
And it just seems that I'm sure someone's working hard at their end to put this together, but they've thrown a lot of stuff in there that really doesn't
Mhm.
apply. And there's language in here. The last 3 pages are Standard clauses for New York State contracts. Well, this is the county
Right.
and the town.
It's not a New York State contract.
It's got stuff in there like, payment in accordance with, what's the prevailing rate, if applicable. Well, it doesn't apply.
Right.
Most of this stuff doesn't apply.
Right.
It's got language in here that says if we breach the contract, then they're free to hire another contractor to provide the services and then sue us for the difference in cost. I mean, really? It doesn't seem to apply.
Yeah. Yeah. Jeff, could you just talk to Charlie about this?
Yeah, I'll sit down and talk.
Charlie's a good guy, and I think if you have a conversation, you just say, I want the roads to be plowed by somebody, and
What are your plans?
and we don't want to sign this the way it is. Just have a conversation
Chat
with
with
him.
them
Yeah.
and hopefully- Like I say, and I don't think I'll get pushed back here.
Yeah,
If the
so-
roads need attention, we'll do what we got to do.
Mhm.
There's something's happening.
yeah, I mean, we want to do this,
What's that?
right? We want to provide
We would
these
like to,
services.
yeah,
We'd like to work
yeah.
with the county, but
If the county can't provide it, the county uses the state contract. Got the volume on that, Tom? The county uses a state contract to help balance their snow removal budget, okay? They make money plowing roads for the state. It's no secret. Every time they go out, it's changed. This contract we're talking with them is this much per center lane mile, break even. That allows them to do more miles of state road to make money. Okay? But to say that, and Altown's a great, Cincinnatus gave it up last year. They weren't making any money. Lapeer gave it up this last year because they showed where he was losing some money.
Hmm.
And so it's not, we're not the only odd one out now. So I'll talk to Charlie and
Okay.
it's, the other thing they should do really is that contract should end in July. To start a contract November 1st, in my eyes, a winter contract, we get winter before July or November 1st.
Mhm.
We plowed snow on
Sure.
around Halloween before,
Mhm. Mhm.
but that's discussion down the road.
Mhm. Okay. One other item, can we talk about paving the parking lot?
Sure. Suco's starting to wind down with their major paving. Got the small paver. McAvoy's supposed to let me know. I told him I need at least 2 days. I just don't want to start digging out there and finding out it's going to be raining for 4 days or Hurricane Michael heads our way and we've got a swamp out back for a while. So it's a timing thing.
Mhm.
Worst case, and my frustration this time of year, you don't get the nice days like today and tomorrow, is cold joints. I don't want, there's a lot of joints in the parking lot. It'd be nice not to have a lot of cold joints,
Mhm.
which aren't problematic for a few years. But so all I can throw at you, weather depending, try to get it in. If not, we're gonna be first on the docket in the spring.
Okay.
Get it done.
Okay.
Zeke, yeah.
So your crew would dig out.
Yeah, we do a dig
Yeah.
out and get it leveled and like
Right.
that. And that's the other, I don't know 100% what you're gonna find. They're gonna find Treble Valley cobbles 6
Mhm.
inches down, you know? Old pieces of foundation. You don't know. You're not going very deep, but you still don't know what you're gonna start
Mhm.
scratching off the first few inches.
Okay.
So,
Okay, good. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah.
This time we're gonna, there's nobody here from Recreation. So County Legislature, Don, you have some information for us?
Well, I'll change a little bit of what I originally was going to talk to you about. I'm very glad that Jeff brought this up about the contract. I didn't know anything that there was any kind of problems with the contract until last week. It kind of got brought out that other towns are also very dissatisfied with the contract that's being presented. I'll do everything I can do to help you with that contract. That's not a contract that did come before the highway committee. We've never seen that contract. I've never seen that contract. I wish that this issue would have been brought up earlier, when it was first brought out. And Jeff knows, I've always worked with him before.
Mhm,
And I think this is something we need to discuss with our county attorney.
mhm,
They're the ones that evidently are writing this contract,
mhm.
and see what we can do about getting this straightened out.
Okay, okay.
And I'll be back at the county tomorrow, and I'll
Mhm,
certainly bring that to their attention the very
Okay.
first thing tomorrow.
okay.
The highway committee will be meeting, solid waste will be meeting,
Mhm,
and I think this is an issue that needs to be
mhm.
certainly handled for the
Mhm.
benefit of the towns as well as the county. I think you talk about shared services, I think we need to work together,
You're
not
right.
us and them,
Not be competitive.
not to be competitive.
Right.
So I'll do everything I can do to make that happen for you,
Okay.
okay?
Thanks, Don.
And if I could just
Yeah,
jump
go
in,
ahead.
Don, I think one of the things that Jeff has pointed out, and because it's a shared services, if it works, it works. It's like
Right.
anything. You almost don't need an agreement if it works.
Right,
Okay.
Mhm.
But this thing where we're obligated for 5 years, yet the county has really 8. I didn't count them up. Jeff apparently did. I don't know how many ways he said the county has to get out of the agreement, but there's a lot.
yeah,
I mean, it just, we need some ability to get out if it doesn't work.
right. You should have that
And it's
ability
really
to-
kind of a reciprocal
either
thing.
side.
Again, if it doesn't work for one side or the other, then it should end. Either side should be able to call an end to it.
Right.
If it's working, it'll continue. And I think it worked well over the last 5 years.
Mhm.
So, and we're ready to go ahead. But again, circumstances can change where maybe we do want to get out, or, you've got the ability already, but
Mhm,
if we're on the same playing field, okay, and we're really helping the county in a sense, we ought to have that ability to get out. I think that's the single biggest thing.
mhm, mhm,
Otherwise, we're locked in for 5
mhm.
years, and there's some things in here, as Jeff has pointed out, that we could get kind of pulled along and end up having an argument over, well, do we have to provide more services than what we are anticipating to provide?
Right.
So if you could that's our perspective. Yeah, you guys have your perspective too, and I'm sure when I talk to Karen or whomever, they're going to express their perspective to me as well. But it's the reciprocity, I think, and the ability for us to say, hey, and it was in the last one.
Well, I'm not really sure that is the perspective of the legislature as much as it is the perspective of the attorney.
Okay.
Now,
Right, they're doing their
I
job
can't-
for the county,
She's
and
doing her job.
that's right.
She's doing everything she can to
Yep.
protect the county.
Yep.
But
Okay,
I
thanks,
think we
Don.
need to work a lot closer together than what we
Right,
do with the
right.
towns.
Very good. Thank you, Don. Thank you.
Thanks, Don. Is there anything else that you want to share with us from the
Well, the
county?
only other thing I was gonna bring up with you, as of August, we're $235,000 in arrears. We're gonna be talking about whether or not we're gonna continue to fund, Casella's contract or not, or whether we're gonna take it over at the beginning of the year.
This is for
It's part
recycling?
of the discussion,
Recycling, right?
recycling,
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
That's gonna put us well over $400,000 in the hole by the end of the year. And we can't sustain this year
Right.
after year. We
Right.
can't do it. We gotta do
Right.
something different.
Don, one of our board members asked about sales tax. How is the county tracking on sales tax this year?
Right now, it's up,
It's up.
it's up.
Okay.
Yep. It was up last quarter, and I believe it's gonna be up this quarter by the books.
Okay.
So it is doing fine.
Okay. Okay.
Hopefully it'll help you guys out.
Good. Thanks, Don.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll be back in touch with you, Jeff. Okay?
See that.
Okay, Jane?
Zoning and code, 3 building permits issued, 96 miles traveled for the town. 14 building inspections, 37 hours worked, 1 fire inspection, 2 complaint follow-ups, 17 telephone inquiries. Planning board meeting is October 24th at 7 o'clock. ZBA meeting is November 1st at 7:30.
Thanks, Jay. The historian is not here tonight.
We collected fees of $419, dispersed $408 to the town of Provo, and $11 to New York State Egg and Markets.
Thanks, Jay. We're going to start with unfinished business, but we're going to leave the solar law to the last item because it's going to be a seeker we have to fill out. And if people in the audience don't want to sit through that, we'll get through all of our other business first. So snow plowing contract, we just talked about that. Ed Benedy, Don, can you give us an update?
Yes, and I forgot to pull a copy, but I will email it to you tomorrow and we'll get it out to the other board members. We have an order that grants the relief we sought. It's permanent injunction. It basically directs the property to be cleaned up and kept clean. Actually, I'd stopped by there several weeks ago, and there was a dumpster in the yard. And I did talk to the occupant there, and he was going to be cleaning up. I did not have a chance to stop on the way up.
I stopped earlier this week.
Any
Dumpster is
significant
still-
difference?
The dumpster is still there.
Yeah. So, we've served the order on them.
Mm-hmm.
And if we come to the point where we've had it, the next step would be to apply to holding them in contempt because they're now under court order to clean and keep it clean.
Okay. Thanks,
So
Don.
that's where we're at.
Okay. Next item is Preble Park agreement.
I've got it here somewhere. Give me a moment.
Okay.
I'll also have a resolution on the pilot program, which I did forget to mention to you.
Mhm.
I think Betty Ann provided me with a Preble Park agreement that's in place.
Mhm.
And I don't know if the board was familiar with the existence of this agreement or not. But
Not
this
really.
is where, someone wants to reserve a spot there.
Mhm.
They fill this form out and is generally pretty good. I don't know if we require, I may have other clean copies, but there's the application and then there's facility use requirements. Ignore the backside because it's my scrap paper that I made copies on. There we go. She did make some forms. Okay. So on the back side are the facility use requirements. There you go, Dave. And here, use that one, Dave. So this is the application. I think you got it to me, right, Betty? Betty? So, a couple things I just point out. Do we normally ask for any kind of deposit?
We did.
Is that doesn't work or does work?
That was what they did is just to secure the date.
Okay.
Because a lot of people will sign up and not want the date. They'll put the request in and never use it, where somebody else could use it. This way, you can put the deposit in and they don't use it. You can keep the deposit because you could have got it from someplace else. So
It's an
more of a
incentive for
security.
them to show up.
Yeah, so there's no specific spot here for deposits, so I'm thinking maybe we modify a little bit to provide for that.
It's on item 10.
Is it? Okay, I'm looking at the front. The fee, $50 payable. Return or refundable. Okay, so do we have anything in here that says if they cancel, we can keep it?
No, we probably should.
Probably should.
Mhm.
So I'm just thinking, tweaking it a little bit. The other is
Okay.
signature of organization's representative. Here's the issue. When someone signs for the organization, then they're not personally responsible, just the organization.
Mhm.
Now, if it's an organization that is identifiable and is, then we're probably okay. But I wonder if we, and I don't know how much you want to get into this, but I wonder if we want to have an individual sign individually. So they're personally being responsible, not just the organization they're acting for. Again, just kind of a minor point. The other is maybe just putting some language in, and maybe it's in here. I didn't read through all the facility use requirements because I thought they were kind of rules of the road, but some language that explicitly says they'll leave the property free of all debris and that they're responsible for any costs of cleanup and/or repair and replacements. Yeah, paragraph 6 addresses some of that.
Seven.
Yeah. So, I mean, does this work pretty well?
That's worked fine.
Okay.
Mhm.
Again, maybe we can just tweak a little bit regarding deposits
Deposit and then the slash signature for
and the
if
individual.
it's not an organization.
That's right.
Yeah, I think it should be an individual done because most of the park use of the pavilion use is families. So they're not identifiable organizations that, it's not an organization that you can go to and sue if you have to.
Right.
So I
Right.
think it should be an individual there. And also return application to Bade Carroll, that should be off and changed to Renee Compton.
And do we have a cancellation policy? In other words, if someone cancels so many days or weeks in advance of the date, they get it back, or
Is that on the back here anywhere? Cancellation?
and do we
Because we've
care?
always come through with it, and if they canceled it far enough ahead, there was already somebody requesting it,
Right.
when they'd call, they'd say, it's that date, no, it's taken, and we'll let you know if it comes up. So
Okay.
if it come up 2 weeks ahead, the other people would step in.
So if we're going to use this form, I would have a couple of concerns about it just from, and Don, I would just pose these out there. I mean, as a government entity, what business do we have of asking what the proceeds would be used for if it's a for-fee event? I mean, do we have any right to ask that?
We can ask it.
Well,
If they said we
none of
don't,
your business.
then
Yeah. Well, exactly. And if refreshments are served, give details. I mean, ice cream, what flavor?
well, probably alcohol or non-alcohol. but-
Well, so I think we ought to ask that explicitly if that's important for us to know. And why is it important? I mean, are we going to then approve this or not approve this based on those requirements? And if we are, then we need to have that explicitly laid out. What are the criteria
Mhm.
under which it could be used? Because otherwise, then we open ourselves up to all sorts of issues, right? So we're asking kind of questions that lead to subjective decisions, and we can't do that. And that's what I would be worried about.
Do we see where there is admission charged on occasion, Betty?
There is some people that want to have different activities down there to make money for themselves. And
And so,
that's what they
Like
try
if
to.
somebody has a benefit, some-
Benefits, that's fine. They have no problem
yeah.
there. But this is an individual
Mhm.
that has an activity down there for themselves to make money.
yeah, so I mean, again, I think we ought to make a decision that we're going to allow or not allow commercial activities. But then we have to be explicit about that. I'm doing a fundraiser for me.
Yeah, right.
It's not commercial. It's,
Right.
need to do TV.
And,
For themselves.
if we choose to not allow people to have commercial activities at the pavilion, sometimes there's commercial activities going on at the ball field. There's people selling food down there.
Well, so I mean,
So-
I think we just need to
Yeah.
have a decision about that,
Mhm.
or let it go as it is. I mean, and not ask the questions.
It doesn't happen very often that,
I mean, personally, I don't have a strong feeling about it,
Right.
but I'm just
Right.
Well,
saying.
we got that
We
form
should be
from
one
us
way or
from
the
our
other.
insurance company.
Okay.
Did you?
That's where they give it to us.
Okay. Well, okay. I'm going back to the way Peter Knapp used to think. Is we've used this for years. It's worked. We haven't had any problems. If we do have problems in the future, we could always make some changes when that time comes, instead of trying to figure out every possible contingency on the outset.
Oh, I was just going to take them off.
Mm-hmm. Did
I
you
mean-
create the form?
No.
Oh, okay.
The only, the
I've
only
never
thing,
seen the form.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's,
the
I
only
mean, we
thing
can
they
take
have
them
a
off.
problem with is you have to make on the computer. You have to go onto the computer in order to reserve a date. And a lot of people, the older people, do not have them, or they're someplace where they don't have accessibility to a computer. On the back road, there's no computer service.
Mhm.
There's different places, and they were used to call, and that's what was better than the computer service. You know, to reserve a date,
Mhm.
and you don't know if you got it on the computer service.
Who provides the insurance for events?
We have an insurance carrier that
Well,
takes care
so
of
we're going to insure, like, so if somebody goes up there and has a party and then they do something irresponsible and somebody gets injured, then we're insuring it.
Well, our insurance carrier would work those details out. They would investigate.
Oh,
so
I mean,
are we a
normally-
potential risk? The answer to your question is yes, we have potential risk. I mean, generally speaking, we're talking about for our risk is premises liability. I mean, unless we had reason to know what kind of activity was going to go on there, it was inherently dangerous or something.
Well, I mean,
You
I'll give an illustration.
Yeah.
When we go into CRT and use the pavilion as CoFolkla, a nonprofit, we have to provide insurance
Mhm.
for the event. I mean, it's $100 or $50 or whatever it is, but we have to do it, and that's a condition of using it. So I'm just
The
Again,
original
kind of
one
observing
I sent you first there, it had the insurance on it. And they were complaining, different ones, they had to go and get a rider on their policy, it cost them $30 for 3 hours down there. And they're complaining, so the majority of the people that use that park are family.
Right.
right. And
Right.
I think
And so
family
they don't
events.
wanna go to the insurance
Right.
company.
Well, number 3 says no alcohol or illegal drugs, and that's where you're gonna run into most problems. So I don't think we have to
Right.
Oh, but I mean, if
dip, you know.
It's
if you
there.
drew the difference between family events and
Well, we do
corporate
because,
activities,
well, we had a benefit a few years ago. There was a benefit down there, and whoever was putting on, I think, what's his name? Was
Danny
putting,
Morgan.
As an individual,
No,
isn't it?
yeah, but they were putting on a benefit where hundreds of people were coming to this event, and they had to have their own insurance
Right.
for that. We stressed that for them.
Right.
You know, but just a family
Right,
reunion,
right.
you know, we don't really worry about. And NYMER knows that
Mhm.
we do this, so it's covered.
Right. Well, I mean, when you rent a pavilion at the
Yeah.
park at
Mhm.
Dwyer, you don't have to do it for a family. But
Right.
if you're having a company or an organization
Mhm.
event, you do
Right.
because
Right.
you don't want to get sued.
Well, you can still be sued.
Well,
It's just there's another pocket to go
There's another
after.
pocket to go after, exactly.
But no, that's
Yeah, yeah.
and that's a good point. I mean, if someone gets hurt, they're going to reach for anyone. They, you know, if there's any aspect of premises caused the issue,
Mhm.
you know, we could be pulled into the soup there. And again, if it's just a typical gathering, we don't really know anything about it, and a fight breaks out there, I'm not sure we have any responsibility under those set of
Mhm.
circumstances. And yeah, so certainly to have insurance by the participant would be a good thing for us. But
Mhm.
as Betty Ann points out, you know, you got a lot of family
Is it
activities
practical?
and- right. You're gonna,
Right.
so
I mean, we used to carry insurance on all the ball players down there. It's just like seeing a family get together down there, go play ball, and somebody breaks their leg.
now if they break their leg stepping in a hole that we knew about and we didn't fix, okay, now maybe we got a problem.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
If they broke the ball playing ball,
Yeah, but if they slide into second base and they turn their ankle bad or whatever, you know, we don't, unless something about the condition of the field.
Mhm.
You know, if it's slippery and they decide to play out there, that's someone slips and falls, that's really not on us
Mhm.
because it rained or whatever.
Mhm.
So it depends on the facts too, but
Right.
is there some potential risk? Sure there is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Sure there is.
Well, do we want to ask those questions? Is an admission fee charged? You know, I think that was your original point.
Yeah.
Is should we be asking those questions or not?
If we're not going to use them, if we're not going to use the information for anything,
Mhm.
then why are we asking it?
Mhm.
If we are going to use the information, then let's make it explicit as to how
Mhm.
why we're asking those questions.
Mhm.
You know, if you're charging more than, or if you're charging money for it, then it's a commercial event, then you're not allowed to have it, or you are allowed to have it, whatever. But you are allowed to have it, but you have to have your own insurance.
Think about a large extended family, maybe, who has people coming from all over the place. They're going to have 300 or 400 people there, and everybody has to pay $5 per family to cover overhead or something. You know, now you're getting into
Yeah.
nuances
Is that,
of,
right? No, I understand.
you know,
I'm with you.
yeah.
Yep.
Well, we can leave it the way it is.
Yeah, I think we're overthinking it.
Yeah, we could be overthinking it. But if we could make those changes done that I had mentioned earlier, that would be good. Okay, newsletter. Don, can you give us?
So
update on that?
we're working
Oh,
on
that's right.
the fall newsletter. Our goal is to have it.
No, good, thank you.
Our goal is to have it out for Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
So our deadline for articles is this coming Monday. If anybody has an idea for an article, pages are wide open. We're happy to have anybody submit stuff. And
Or if anybody wants to help out with the newsletter.
yep,
That's the
absolutely.
other thing.
If anybody wants to
Yeah.
contribute some time and energy, but I think we're in pretty good shape in
Mhm.
terms of, we've got a bunch of articles already lined up, and our goal is to have it go into design on the 22nd.
Okay. Okay, good. New business, we have for the 2019 budget meeting on October 24th, 7 p.m. Everybody can make that, I assume? Okay. So it'll be here at this table. Gina will be here, and we'll work through our budget. It'll be a workshop meeting. Monies received, we received $37,938.60 from New York State CHIPS. We received $26,049.63 from New York State Pave New York, WIRP. We received $16,509 from New York State Aid. We received $1,771.89 from Northeast Transformers and $741.92 from USPS for rent. So now we'll go back to the first item that we have, which is the solar law. Don, is there anything you want to say about the solar law that before we get into the seeker?
Yes, procedurally, as a board will recall, we had a public hearing last month, which was notable for its brevity. We had referred the matter to county planning for their recommendation. We have their written response that the board recommends adoption of the proposed local law, subject to seeker review. So we have that. And on the seeker, remember that the seeker format is designed, maybe you guys can share, for a project. So a substantial portion of the seeker questions and answers that it prompts really aren't applicable when you're doing legislation versus a particular, building to be constructed. So what the seeker includes is it breaks it into parts. So part one sets forth the basic information regarding the project. So part one runs through pages 1 through 13, yeah, it's 13 pages. Then part 2, which is his own set of 10 pages,
Mhm.
is the environmental assessment itself. So, Dave, here, you got one? Okay. So, page 1 obviously sets forth basic information as far as we listed ourselves as the applicant, and then Jim is the town supervisor. Page 2 talks about what approvals are required, and really no approvals are required other than this town board's approval and the county planning board's recommendations, which we have. And I don't know how detailed the board wants to be on reviewing the answers to these fairly straightforward questions in the first part of it. Most of them are no, but not all of them.
Well, it looks like you filled out a good portion of this.
Yes, we have for you,
Right,
okay?
right.
But if you want to do a cursory review to make sure you're comfortable with what it provides for, you know, for example, starting on page 4, D2 or project operations. Well, sub A, does the proposed action include any excavation, mining, or dredging during construction? Well, it doesn't apply
Mhm,
because it's not that type of project.
mhm.
So,
I think we'd
It's
say
what-
no.
yeah. Right. So I think we missed that one.
Mhm.
But we've
Okay.
tried to fill this out. And let me give you one other example, and then you can decide what to do. If you go to E, section E, which starts, I think, on page 9, site and setting a proposed action. So it talks about existing land uses. So we, in the town, we've got forest, ag, agricultural, commercial, residential, rural. And then we put in local law will not affect the current land use amounts and involves no quote unquote site. Therefore, this section is not filled out. So for the balance of page 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13, we've left that blank
Mhm.
because we don't think that that applies.
Okay,
So it's prior to that that we've tried to fill out. And then, Jim, you would, at the end of this part 1, you'll see where there's a spot to sign stating that to the best of our knowledge, the information contained in this part 1 is true and correct.
except the name says Jane Doring.
Oh, well, we just put that in there to make sure that you
They're reading it.
were reading that.
And its title is town clerk. So.
Yeah.
Wow, so here we don't know about.
Yeah, which way was she
How
going
about
on this? All
Shared
right.
services all over.
Where's the whiteout?
Brings new meeting.
Yeah.
So,
So that's part 1, Jim.
okay. Is this something I can sign and you'll change? Or should I
Yes.
wait for another
We can.
copy?
You can just pen that in. Actually, that's fine.
Okay. Okay,
And then again, part 2 is the environmental review, and for our purposes, you might say it's a little bit of overkill
mhm,
because probably most of your answers are going to be no.
mhm,
But it's required by law to do this environmental review in connection with this type of action. So for example, and again, we're not talking about a particular solar development. We're talking
Mhm.
about our change in the law. So number 1, impact on the land. Involved construction, obviously, or physical alteration of the land or surface of the proposed site. I think the answer is no,
mhm, mhm.
and so on. So 2, impact on geological features. No. Impacts on surface water. So that's on number 3 on page 2. Okay. So up here it was impact on geological features. No. So we're on page 2, paragraph 3, impacts on surface water. And see, when you say no, then you don't need to address anything below that. All right. It's only if you answer yes.
Okay.
So impact on groundwater. So we're at number 4 on the top of page 3.
No,
Impact on flooding. Are we affecting flooding in any way?
no,
Impacts on air.
no,
Impacts on plants and animals will result in a loss of flora or fauna.
I would say no.
Will this impact on agricultural resources?
No,
Impact on aesthetic resources. Will it so the land use of the proposed action are obviously different from or are in sharp contrast to current land use patterns being between the proposed project and a scenic or aesthetic resource.
it depends on the individual project.
Right,
Yeah, so the law doesn't.
right.
Right, we would say no.
Impact on historic or archaeological resources.
No,
Impact on open space and recreation. Loss of recreational opportunities or reduction of open space.
Yeah.
Impact on critical environmental areas. To my knowledge, we have no designated critical environmental areas in trouble. Impact on transportation.
no,
Impact on energy. Well, certainly the idea wouldn't be to cause an increase in the use of energy, which is what they're prompting.
Mhm.
Impact on noise, odor, and light.
no,
Human health will have an impact on human health from exposure to new or existing sources of contaminants.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
Consistency with community plans. The proposed action is not consistent with adopted use plans.
So I would have thought that it was consistent with our use plans, right?
well, that's why we created the law the way we did.
Right.
That
Yeah,
it
that's
would
what
be
I'm saying.
consistent with
So
our,
the answer is no.
Correct.
Yeah.
And consistency with community character. I think the way it's designed, the effort is to maintain the community character.
right,
So the answer would be no. Okay, so then this is a type 1. So this is part 3. So this is where you identify it's a type 1. And where are we at? Then if you go to the page 2, we're suggesting that we need a resolution. This project will result in no significant adverse impacts on the environment. So a negative declaration be issued.
okay. So do we have to state that resolution? Or is this
You've got
filling out
that.
some paperwork?
We need someone to make that resolution. And that would authorize you to sign this part 3.
So do we have language for the resolution, or it's just, I mean,
You
so
could,
just read that?
yeah,
Okay. So I move that we state that this project will result in no significant adverse impacts on the environment, and therefore an environmental impact statement need not be prepared. Accordingly, this negative declaration is issued. And as a consequence of that, we authorize Jim to sign the secret.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Okay,
So now somebody that's doing a specific project will then fill out a seeker, and then
You got it.
they'll have to deal with. the
then they're going to
specifics,
deal
right?
with the
Yeah,
impacts
okay.
from that
Yeah,
project.
nothing,
That's
nothing that
correct.
we're doing your waves there.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Okay.
So So then with that, you're ready to consider for adoption local law 1 of 2018.
That was two.
The law, excuse me, local law 2 of 2018. And the one thing I'd point out is, I think you all have maps, right? So the areas are being limited to those that are shown in dark green on this map, correct? So this map is actually attached to and is part of the local law. Kind of like our zoning map is part of our zoning ordinance.
So do we make a resolution to accept local law number 2?
Right, someone needs to make a resolution to adopt local law 2 of the year 2018.
Okay.
I move we adopt local law 2 of the year 2018. The proposed changes to the zoning law regarding solar implementations.
I'll say that.
All in favor?
All right.
Right?
Carried.
Okay, so what we do, and I see we did get Jane's name and her position correct on these versions of the law. And so we're going to sign a couple of these for the town's file, and you're going to take the seeker and
Okay,
as part of the permanent file. And then there's a form that I'll need to have you sign that will file with the Secretary of State. It's not official till it's filed with the state.
Okay. So I give the seeker to Jane. Jane gets the seeker.
Yep.
For the file. And this that I just signed goes to. Let's see, can I sign this?
I think Jane, as town clerk, signs that.
Yeah, Jane signs this.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've got a couple of copies for it. And just one other quick thing then, so this is a resolution with respect to the county pilot program.
Mhm.
So honestly, we're still checking to see if we can get by with just this resolution. But the purpose of this is to make sure that if a project comes in and the project receives a pilot treatment, that we continue to receive our share of the pilot monies,
Mhm.
the payment in lieu of taxes. So
Mhm.
actually, Fran's got a call into NYSERDA, and we're not convinced that a resolution itself will do it,
Mhm.
but we could pass this resolution, and we're going to continue to look for the answer, just in case some
So-
project comes in.
Okay, so you're saying that the payment in lieu of taxes would go to the county and it might bypass us.
Right,
Okay.
without a resolution.
Okay.
And we might have to, we're not sure if maybe it'll require a local law, but we're gonna check on that.
Mhm.
So I can't vouch here today and say that definitely this will do it,
Mhm.
but it won't hurt us,
Okay.
and it may be enough. We just don't have the final resolution of that.
And is this something that we have to do verbally now?
You can, yeah, you can just,
Okay.
someone can just make a resolution that, just take the last few lines from that last paragraph, Jim, and then we can present this give that to Jane to put with the minutes.
Okay. So we need a resolution that the town of Preble approves and adopts the county local law number 1, 2018, and will participate in the pilot program for commercial solar projects located within the town of Preble. Somebody could say so
So
moved.
moved.
Second,
Just like that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Okay, good.
So can I have that? Thank you.
Okay, so we've concluded this topic. And we've concluded our regular business for Town of Pueblo Board meeting.
Jim, one question. So when in the early drafts, there were some additional zoning law changes that were proposed. And we asked them to take those out so that we didn't confuse the two issues. And do we have a plan to get those back before the board to update the zoning? Those?
We would have to have a committee. Amy, do you want to have a word on this? You want to say anything on this?
Well, yeah, we had, the committee had, when we were working, there were some maybe discrepancies. We wanted to clean up the language in the format. And, but again, we will focus on this as we did with the other matters. So, yeah, there are some things that we need to clarify. So if we could.
We just have to have our committee
If we
reconvene.
could yeah, if we could do that and you could authorize that, that would be fine.
Mhm.
It's not real lengthy, it's just a little bit of upgrade. So we'd like to continue that, but we needed to wait until we finished it.
Mhm. Yeah, we were going to continue on it.
Yeah, okay, great. Okay, I just want to make sure that we explicitly said,
Right.
let's go forward and do this.
Right.
Yeah.
Is
Okay.
that there?
So-
Same as Portland's got, the town form just passed. Is that
It's the same as Holmes.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to open up the meeting for public comment, questions or comments from the public that the board can answer or shed light on. Anybody? Okay, no comments or questions. So we need a motion to pay the general fund vouchers.
Make a motion, pay general fund vouchers, abstracts number 10, numbers 250 to 271, totaling $7,668.66.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. We need a motion to pay the highway fund vouchers.
Make a motion to pay the highway vouchers, abstract 10, number 78 through 87, totaling $138,955.17.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. We need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
See everybody the 24th.
All right.